Good afternoon, all, and thank you for joining us for another Secret Sunday session today. Today, I'm joined by Rachael Adams from America. And for those who don't know, Rachael is a bronze medalist in volleyball, and she represented the USA in the sport at the Olympics. So we're going to be talking to Rachael today about her story and also what she is doing now. So to kick us off, Rachael, do you just want to explain to us who you are and what it is that you were doing with yourself?
Yeah. Hey guys. Like she said, I'm Rachael. I'm an indoor volleyball player, born and raised in Cincinnati, Ohio, then went to school at Texas and later joined the USA national team. And for me, I found volleyball and it was a complete accident. Was sleeping over at my best friend's house and she invited me to either like keep sleeping or come with her to the incoming freshman volleyball camp. I decided to go, bring my summer reading book. The coaches asked me if I wanted to join, and that's how I found volleyball. And it just led me down this path of, visiting different countries and playing professionally for 10 years in countries like Poland, Italy, Brazil. There's one more, and Turkey for the past 10 years. And I've learned so much about myself. And that is actually like one of my favorite things about sports. Like, of course, I love playing volleyball, but it's just like a vehicle for me and just growth and just the way I've been able to learn. And now I'm serving other female athletes as their mindset and confidence mentor and helping them, own their confidence during competition through the power of mindset and self-discovery. So that's where I'm currently at with my life, and I'm excited.
Absolutely amazing. What a journey. And looking back, as you said, you sort of fell into volleyball. Did you know enough about the game prior to that?
I did, but there's a big difference from what like I kind of did like in gym class and in grade school. Cause um, normally in grade school, you just kind of like rotate around, like you become this position, then this position. But when I was in high school, everyone had specific positions and, there was like overlapping and rotations and free balls and down balls. And I had no idea it was just like a next level. I had no idea. So that was like an eye opener and like I had to learn a lot, but my coaches were so willing to just like, take me through everything. And I learned so much and I just wanted to keep coming back each day and then eventually try out. And I just really enjoyed it.
So what pushed you then to want to become an Olympian?
So when I did find like my stride with volleyball in high school, I did try out for the youth national team for USA and I made it. And then I played the following year on the junior national team. And so we would compete in different, the first year was Chula Vista, California. The second year was Mexicali in Mexico. And we played internationally against other teams like Turkey and Brazil. And it was my um, first time putting on a USA jersey. And I was like, oh, wow, like this is so cool. And like, you have like Olympic dreams and Olympic thoughts, but it wasn't until until 2012, I was sitting in my apartment in Poland and I was watching USA play against Brazil in the Olympics. And I realized that like half the girls that were on the court, I had either played against them in college or played with them. And in my, that's when like the path connected from like where I was to where they were. And I was like, okay, like if they were just where I was, like I can get there too. And I literally went in my phone and Googled like, cause like, okay, Olympics happens every 4 years. So I was like, Google like 2016 Olympics and Rio already had their logo out. And so I screenshot it and I was like, I want to be there. And so I was there. So I still have it in my phone, but it's crazy.
Wow, that is phenomenal to think that that's where that journey started. If you look back on that, how was the training journey to get to the Olympics? A lot of people describe Olympians today, describe the intensity of it. Was it intense for you?
Um, I would say it was intense, but not in like a physical way. Of course, like, they have us lifting, we practice, but they're also very mindful of our bodies and like recovery days and not overworking us, but also telling us like they don't really feel bad for us because everyone around the world is working hard and tired. So like no one feels bad for you. Um, I think the hardest part is like mentally balancing the fact that you're trying to be on a team and be a good teammate, but you're also competing against people for spots to go to Olympics, because only 12 athletes get to go, but there's like 30 players in the gym at the time. So it's like, and when you don't know, like kind of like the mental things that are happening in your head, it's just like very confusing and it's a very stressful environment. And you have to just be very aware of like how you take care of yourself.
Do you have to be your number one supporter?
Oh yeah, 100%. And that's what I learned along my journey. Because you wanna like, obviously, like it's natural to like want to seek validation from others and be like, am I doing good? Like, do you think I'm doing, like, what about this? Did you see the progress I've made? And like, or like, please help me. Your teammates are gonna help you, but like at the end of the day, like you have to acknowledge like your progress, and you have to support yourself. And I learned to like to be my biggest cheerleader, because you can easily be like your biggest bully.
Did you struggle at all during that time with your mental health and sort of supporting yourself during that journey?
Yeah, I mean, that's where I learned and just like dove into mindset. It was like in 2015, I had a coach come up to me and he's like, after a game, he's like, why does it look like you don't deserve to be out there? And I was like, I don't know what you're talking about. Like, I'm fine. Like, it's like, I don't know what you're talking about. And then like, it just made me like dive deeper into like, okay, maybe he has something. And like, luckily we were working with like sports psychiatrists as a team. And we talked a lot about like self-talk and just being aware of like what you're telling yourself in the stories. And it really made me realize like the self-beliefs that I had. And one was, since I started volleyball so late, it was like, I'm not enough, or like my skills aren't enough. Cause I always felt like I was steps behind other players in the gym. Like I was always playing catch up. So no matter like if I got a full ride to Texas or I got invited into the USA gym, I always felt like, okay, like I'm not enough. And it wasn't until I questioned, I was like, is that the truth? Is this fact? I'm like, actually, it's not. And it was like, did anyone tell you this? I'm like, no. It was like, it was just me telling myself these things. But you can definitely get caught in the cycle of like comparing yourself to others around you in your position, worrying about what the coaches are thinking, worry about what others are thinking. And so when I was aware of that, and I could actively like, when it's happening, be like, okay, let's focus on what we can control. We can't control what the coaches are thinking. We can't control what others are doing. Like, just be the best teammate that you can be, and just focus on how you're showing up each day and like how you're getting better each day. But like, you definitely, and like you're competing to make rosters. So like you're worried about like when the roster's coming out and the stresses of like the yeses and the nos and how to deal with those things. Yeah.
Wow, it's crazy, because I think we all assume, not being Olympians, that Olympians or athletes just have confidence and just have that belief in themselves. And then hearing that and hearing a lot of stories, it's quite astounding to realize that you do battle a lot within yourselves and battle to find that confidence.
Yeah, 100%. And I like to let young athletes know that I'm like, just because we're Olympians, just because we're professional athletes, doesn't mean we have it all figured out. But what we do have figured out is the tools and the awareness that when these things that come to like chip away at our confidence and our belief in our capabilities, like we have the awareness and we have the tools to like navigate that now. And that's why just like, and it's just like you train in the gym, you have to train your mental, you have to train your mindset. You can't just like all of a sudden show up on the court and, you have self-doubt and you're like, oh, I'm just going to figure it out. But like, no, you have to be aware of it. You have to like keep working towards those things and doing the homework. And I love sharing on my Journey Strength Instagram. That's what my platform I use for my mentorship, just like other athletes, like professional athletes, Olympians that are sharing like, how they, talk about self-talk and how it's not about like your physical, but your mental. And like, if your mind isn't there, your body's not going to follow. And I'm like, guys, this isn't just like grade school athletes. It's like everyone, like we all, feel this and go through this.
Do you feel, though, there is still a stigma almost attached to recovering or looking after your mental health so that it is in good shape? Do you feel that even amongst the industry that you're working in, that there is still a stigma attached to supporting one's mental health?
Um, I would say it's getting better because I mean, you have like athletes like Simone Biles that speak out, and people, whether they want to embrace it or not, they're hearing it and they're hearing her story. Um, but what I do love is like the USOPC, like the Olympic embodiment for Team USA, they have resources for like um, sports psychiatrists and like better up for coaches and just speaking with people. And I'm just having resources because the athletes have spoken up and being like, hey, like you have to listen to us. Like, this is a real thing. Like we need resources. And so we're definitely, listen there. And like our coach with the national team, he's like, we don't train on the weekends. He's like, I want you guys to be humans and not just like overtrain you. And so that's an important part because we do train out in California. So just having that like feeling of kind of being human and a little normalcy after just like the grind of being foreign countries around the world playing, it's just like a piece of like, okay, like we're normal. We can like recover. We can take a mental break and just take care of ourselves.
That's amazing. It is great to see that there is a shift happening in the professional space as well as individuals. I want to now look to your practice and what you were doing with your mentoring. How did that come about and why did you decide to do that?
It definitely stemmed from that conversation that I had in 2015 and just the journey that I went on. And when I realized how powerful our thoughts are, how powerful, being able to program our mind for success and just being on our side, because if we're not aware of it, when we can't control it, like it can, either like lift us up or tear us down. And I realized how like it can tear us down fast. And I want it to be a part of like programming my mind and lifting myself up and being that like cheerleader for myself. And I just learned about like limiting beliefs and, negative self-talk and just, I keep saying like awareness, but it like the awareness is first, like nothing else can happen if you're not even aware of like the thoughts that are going on or like, what activates like moments of like not having confidence. Like what is it a drill? Is it a missed serve? Is it, you making a mistake on defense? Like what are those areas that like, like make a ding, like when those happen, like your self-confidence starts to take hit. So just like having that awareness, and just like being a resource for athletes and being able to like talk them through it and ask deeper questions. So when they are saying like, hey, I'm afraid of what people think. And I'm like, what do you think people are thinking? Or like, okay, what will happen if they're thinking that, just like making them dig deeper into like what they're actually like is going in their mind. Cause they just like think these thoughts and they don't think past that. And yeah, just being a place where I can be like, hey, like you're not alone, and just be able to guide them through this process as like their coach and their mentor. I don't know. It's been really exciting.
That's awesome. And are you mentoring all different types of athletes, people from all different sports?
So far, I have done a lot of volleyball, some track, and then like cross country.
Wow, that's amazing.
Yeah.
And do you find that people have all sort of similar areas that need to be mentored?
I mean, definitely. And it's like different things, like maybe it's a sports transition and it's like some perfectionism is creeping up. Like if I'm not perfect at this sport as soon as I transition and like there's something wrong or like fear of failure, and just allowing themselves to give themselves grace and lean on the process instead of the outcome, and just embracing failure and the mistakes that they make along the ways. But I think all athletes can just be more aware of their self-talk, and they've all just like made a lot of strides, just like being able to like add that to their toolkit.
Now, we've talked a lot about the individual self and how that can have an impact on your self-talk. But what is someone to do if an outside influence or a coach or a family member is someone that is making them feel bad about themselves or pushing that negative talk? Are they supposed to just distance themselves or cut that person out? Because sometimes that's not always, I guess, a necessary option as well.
Yeah, I mean, that's definitely difficult, even for like, I mean, especially young athletes that are like within this household, or, you know, their coaches are very big authority figures in their life. But it's also being able to filter what people are saying, taking it in and like taking what they're saying and like choosing how you want to interpret it, and um adding your truth to it, not taking things as fact, and just questioning what they're saying and being aware that like, you know, people are going to like say things, and they might not always be great, but just having that filter to kind of like let it go in the ear, filter it out, and like let it go. I mean, what has been your experience with that? Like, it's definitely
Yeah.
difficult.
It's one of those things I find that it's really tough. And for me, it's always about preparation. So if you can't
Mhm.
distance yourself from the person, so if you're around that person, what can you do in that situation to make that situation easier for yourself? So putting in certain barriers, or having even a conversation with that person to say, hey, this is not helping, and then see how they react to that. But then, yeah, just putting a plan in place so that you can help yourself, because I feel that with things like that, and as you would know, working with self-talk and the thoughts that happen within yourself, it's all about preparing and
Mhm.
being, I guess, the first front, or the first foot ahead of everything that is happening within yourself. And that can be hard, but it's a process.
Yeah, I love that, having that conversation. Like, they can be tough, but it's so important because then you can carry that with you. Um, Whether you enter like corporate America or whatever job experience, having those tough conversations with people. Yeah, it's so important for kids. And you know, if they don't want to listen, and it's turning to like focus on what you can control, and like you said, like preparing, knowing like those things are going to come up, and like choosing like how you want to respond. Yeah, that's
Mm.
so awesome.
Yeah, and looking at athletes as well, I think they often don't have a long, let's say, work life. You perform for a short period of time, and it's such an intense time, and then all of a sudden it may end. How was that transition for you to finding then an alternate job or an alternate lifestyle? And do you believe that that is something that athletes struggle with, finding their identity after they've been an intense athlete?
Yeah, I mean, 100%. Cause like even going into sports, like especially college, like they ask you to pick a major. And I really have a passion for like being creative, and I really love like graphic design. And so when I got there, I was like, I want to apply to this sequence. It's called like Texas Creative Sequence. And they're like, oh, I don't think that's a good idea. That's going to take a lot of like hours, and it's very tough and it's hard to get into. I was like, that's okay. Like, this is what I want to do. And so I applied, I got in, and I trained as an art director alongside a copywriter. And I just always had, I don't know what sparked this thought within me. Like, I just always thought like, I'm not just an athlete, like volleyball is not going to last forever. Like, just don't put me in just like a simple like communications major. So many athletes are just there, and I'm like, what are you guys going to do like when sports are over? Like, what are your passions? And so I did that. But and then when I was played in Poland, I started this blog, like living in a city that I can't pronounce because I literally couldn't pronounce the city. It's called like Bydgoszcz, but it has like 4 Z's and C's. It's crazy. And so I just felt like different passions that I like to fill my time up outside of the sport. And then I did get an injury, and I was like asking myself, like, well, how do I want to fill my time up with? Like, what am I passionate about? Like, I have all this time. Like, what are we going to explore? Um, and then I did like some deeper thinking as the Tokyo Olympics were ending. And I'm like, okay, like, what am I even more passionate about? Like, okay, I love working one-on-one more than like groups. Like, I love having one-on-one deep conversations with people rather than just like a big group. It's a big group, I'm just like listening and like, you know, having a conversation in my head thinking I'm replying, but like I'm not replying. um and then I was like, I love being creative, and I love just like a lot of my friends come to me for like advice, or just like to have like conversations and just be an ear. And then I was like, well, how can I like combine that? And I went to this retreat and the leader was a life coach. And I talked to her. I was like, what is life coaching? And then I got my certification and just like combines everything. Um, and that's funny because like a lot of my teammates like go on to be like coaches, like volleyball coaches. And I've ran camps and I've been a coach and I was like, I don't like coaching volleyball. Like I absolutely hate it, but I do love having side conversations with the athletes. And like, I always found myself like having those conversations, like how is school? Like, how are you feeling? Like, is someone bullying you? Like, let's talk about it, you know? And so just like all that combined, I'm like, okay, this makes sense. And then this is how like my next chapter. But I mean, I just recently like retired. So I think I made that decision in May. So it's not too long ago. Like I'm freshly retired and it's been a journey. Like as much as like, I'm like, oh, I'm more than an athlete and I have passions, like, you know, it's still like a grieving process. Cause like sports have been such a huge part of me. And, you know, you can say like a part of your identity, whether you want to like want it to be or not, like, you know, and so just like navigating that and being like, okay, I'm excited about the future, but like, I'm also like missing volleyball, you know, like, and that's okay. Like two things can, um, coexist at the same time. Like I don't have to be only excited about the future. And that means like, I'm on the right path. Like it's okay to feel like multiple things at once.
Do you feel that a lot of athletes stay in the sport that they've trained so hard for years in because of that emotional attachment and the struggle to let go?
Yeah. Yeah. I recently talked to an athlete and she was sharing that like, she finds herself like navigating to like the next sport or next thing. Cause like, she doesn't want to like let go of it and just kind of holds on, even if it doesn't, you know, even if there's no passion anymore. It's just like, I don't know what else I would do.
Do you think that's good for a person?
No, I don't. And I wish more athletes like I love when I see other athletes. Like I had a teammate that loved photography and like dove into that. And I had another, like there's a men's player on the volleyball team that's like set up a ceramic shop in Germany. And I'm like, they have dove in deep into like, what else am I passionate about? You know, like even if it's not anything creative, like how can I, you know, take some classes to explore that? Because we do have free time, maybe not so much in college, it's a little difficult, but even just answering journal prompt questions, like what were you passionate about like when you were younger? Like what do you do and time passes and you forget about like time? Like just those questions just to like spark up some thoughts that you don't even like think about.
I think it's so necessary because, yeah, in so many sports, as we've talked about, you spend so many years being an athlete and then all of a sudden you've got to hang up the shoes or hang up the athletic clothes. And it's like, well, what now? What am I supposed to do with myself? Who am I? And a lot of that time, unfortunately, you're at an age where you're still so young and you still have so many years to work. And a lot of people get lost and sometimes can then get ill mental health, which is then another issue that sometimes we have to deal with. Did you find during your journey that any athletes did have ill mental health?
Yeah, I mean, and adding on to that, when you don't have like those spaces outside of volleyball, you can put so much pressure on yourself just to do well in volleyball. And I think that's where it gets unhealthy. Like you just think, drink, breathe volleyball, and you don't have that outlet. But I think you asked like, have I come across any teammates or athletes? I mean, definitely. It's not so uncommon, you know, you see it more than in others, and some people aren't so aware of it. But yeah, I don't know. What has your experience been with it and like finding your other passion and like being to where you are now and just like diving in?
Yeah, well, I feel that with athletes, it is a difficult one. I know a couple of people I've mentored, definitely not Olympians, but just in the sporting space, it's that loss of identity if they get injured or if they have to retire and then afterwards they do go there. Like, what am I supposed to do? And it's either this two road, either the person unfortunately goes down poor mental health where they lose themselves because they've devoted so much time to their sport that now they can't overcome that, or on the other side where they find their passions, or they go to uni, or they find something. So I think it's that crossroad pathway, and it depends on the person and their support team and who they have around them to go, well, which way am I going to decide to go? And unfortunately, in a lot of the sport and the mentoring that I do, is that I'm dealing with a lot more younger people that generally, stop sport at such a young age, and they've had so many goals and dreams to achieve, and then all of a sudden that all ends for them, and then it's like, well, my whole world has ended. So it's then also helping them to discover, well, you just now you just have to find another goal and another dream and another path, and there's nothing wrong with that. But for me, for example, when I was going through my own journey, I was netball, and then all of a sudden when that ended, it's like, well, what else do I love, and what else can I find to enjoy? And it's a process, but for me, it was all about support networks. You have to have positive people around you to help you through it.
No, 100%. So when I did decide I wanted to retire, I was like, okay, I need support. Like, of course, my family, my husband is great, but I reached out to the USOPC and I'm like, what are your resources? And I was like, I definitely need to just talk this out with people, because not only was I retiring, I was getting married. I'm about to move to Japan, where my husband plays basketball for his 5th season. I'm starting a new career, and then obviously like retiring. And I'm like, there's so many transitions happening at once, and I'm going to need help, because like, this is tough, and I know it's going to be tough, and I know I'm going to have like mixed feelings, and, one day I'm good and the other I'm like, like you said there's a crossroads, and you're like, some moments you are like, okay, like, cause it's easy. The goals before like Olympic medal, like easy, like want to go to Olympics.
Yeah.
And now, like the goal is easy. And so now I'm like, okay, as I am starting this mentorship, I had to get clear. I'm like, what is my goals? Like, it's not clearly written, like being able to serve and what I want to do with the business, and just getting passionate about that. But like, it's definitely different. I mean, even just like the way I move my body now, like it's not like being pushed in to work out, but like choosing how I want to work out now. And just a lot of like learning about myself. And yeah, it's been a journey. So like, even though I was like mentally preparing and mentally knowing like it's going to be like this, it's still like, I'm still in it,
Yeah, it's funny though. People are scared about learning about themselves and discovering who they are. I find it really exciting, like getting up and going, so what do I actually like, or what are my strengths, or what are my weaknesses? I feel really empowered from things like that. And it's funny because so many people are scared of getting to know themselves, like they're going to open up some deep, dark portal. But at the end of the day, it's exciting getting to know who you are, so that you know your passions and your hobbies and your goals.
No, 100%. And it's so funny. Like at the end of like the program, I asked athletes, I'm like, what was your, some of your favorite parts, activities that we did? And they hands down always love, because I send at the beginning of our series, like 3 pages of journal prompts that just ask you like, what keeps you calm? Like, what do you enjoy doing? Just all these self-reflection questions. They're like, I just love learning about myself. And I'm like, yes, like that gives you confidence, just knowing yourself more.
Oh, definitely. Now, what is your final and lasting message to any athlete or person out there that may be struggling with limiting beliefs and might just need a good little push?
Yeah, when it comes to limiting beliefs, like when you recognize that you have these beliefs that you hold true, or just a belief, like next time you tell yourself you're not smart enough, you're not fast enough, or you're not capable to serve like good serves, like question that. Don't hold these things as the truth, because most of the time no one ever told you this, or maybe someone told you this when you were young and you just took it with you as a truth, and now you're like 18 years old still believing that thing that you heard at a young age. And question these things, these beliefs about yourself. And I kind of call it like reading the same book like every day. Like you open the same book, like, oh, I can't jump high. I can't jump high. Like learn to put that book down and open up a new one. Like, okay, like, you know, maybe I'm not able to jump as high as I want to, but like my foot speed is fast, like think differently and just like those different like affirmations and what you can replace it with. But just know you're not alone here in the journey. Like even speaking as an Olympian, even starting my own mentorship, whether it's sports or volleyball, I have to like navigate these things like, okay, I can do this. I can, it's all coming together. Just focus on the progress. Like, so we're all working on this.
We absolutely are. We all have those days, and every day I'm sure we all have that thought that pops in. It's just what you decide to do with that thought.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much. It's been an amazing conversation to hear your story and also share what you're doing now and the amazing work. I just want to say thank you for all that you are doing in this space, because it is phenomenal, and I'm sure so many athletes out there are really proud and happy to call you their mentor and to get that support. So thank you for everything that you're doing. And where can people find you?
You can find me on my mentorship page, Journey Strength, just the word journey and the word strength. And then on my personal Instagram, Rachael Adams, and it's Rachael. Send me a DM if you're listening. I love responding and I'm always there waiting to reply. And also thank you for showing up. Like when I got your message, I was like, absolutely. I love what you're doing and like sign me up right now. I can't wait to chat.
Oh, amazing. Well, thank you so much again, and have a wonderful afternoon. And everyone out there, thank you so much for joining us as well today for another Secret Sunday session. We hope you enjoyed it. And as Rachael said, you can check her out online and send her a DM if you need. So have a great day, and we'll talk to you all soon.